And I want to share with you, if I may, a story of action. I have a friend that I went to yeshiva with that grew up in a non-observant home. And he was from out of town, and one day he hears that I'm traveling to his city. And he comes over and he says, Nate, you have to do me a favor. You have to visit my father. My father has never met any of my religious friends, and I want him to see that they're normal. Now, that was a question in my mind that he considered me normal, but that's a different story. So what happens? I go out to the town, and this fellow's father was a very prominent doctor. He's long since gone. I think 70% of the babies were delivered by him up until that time in that city. And at that time, this city only had one small kosher restaurant, a little hot dog stand with a couple of tables. And this distinguished doctor and I come in to eat lunch. And I ordered, I think, 3, 4 hot dogs. He ordered more napkins than he did hot dogs because he had a nice suit on and he was very dignified. And we're talking, and finally I say to him, I say, Doc, I have to ask you a question. Your son tells me that he was the worst child that a parent could have, and that you saved his life. I want to know, how did you save his life? So he says, I very rarely tell the story, but I'll share it with you. He said, my son was right. He was the worst child a parent could have. He was a nightmare. He said he didn't follow trouble. He created trouble. And then as a teenager, he finally ran away from home. And I have to tell you, my wife and I were not that upset. You laugh, I cry, I must tell you, when you tell me the story. That a parent could not be upset that a child leaves. And then he tells me, he said, I'm a doctor. And the greatest honor that could come to me in my profession was to be chosen to give the South American lecture tour. And that was the greatest honor. You would go to different countries in South America, and you would give speeches. And I tried for it for years. And finally they chose me. He said, and you have to know, I prepared for that lecture tour like I prepared for nothing in my life. I wrote speeches. I dotted every I. I crossed every T. I read the speech in front of my wife, in front of the mirror. If my wife's friends came in, I made them listen to the speech. I was prepared, and I was ready to leave Sunday morning. Thursday night, the phone rings. It's a collect call from an Indian reservation somewhere in California. It's my son. And he says, Dad, I've hit rock bottom. I'm coming home. And I say to him, when are you going to come home? He says, Sunday night. And my mind was ready to say, I'm leaving for the tour Sunday morning. But my heart forced me to say, I'll be at the airport to pick you up. I hung up the phone and I canceled my lifelong dream. Sunday night came. The plane landed. I walked to him. He walked to me. We met. We hugged. We both broke down and cried. And he says to me, I don't know if we cried for 5 seconds, for 5 minutes, or for 5 hours. But I want you to know, it was the greatest speech I ever gave. And that, my friends, is what we have to remember. It's times like now where we have to make a speech. Not a speech of words, but a speech of action. We must understand that the last lions are out there, and we are the last lions. And we must take action to guarantee a Jewish future. And that's what Rabbi and Rebbitzin Max are doing. They are teaching. They are giving us the one thing that enables us to stay Jewish. Jewish education. That is the most important thing. To understand the beauty of what it means to be Jews. And that's why they are special. That's why they deserve all of our support. That's why they deserve our actions. They don't ask for anything except that you spend some time learning the greatest gift that the Almighty gave us, the gift of the Torah at Mount Sinai. And I come here tonight, and I see this crowd, and I have the great honor of traveling across this country. And I see you, and I'm an optimistic person by nature, but my optimism grows when I see the unbelievable success of this young couple who have done such remarkable things. And I want to share